Again with another video. And the reason why I did the same review is because this is going to be a different video from the norm, at least the norm for me. Um, since this is almost the baseball season already, believe it or not, even though it's still the end of February 2016. By next week, the exhibition games was started, and of course, no more than a month later, the regular season was started. And since I'm going to eventually do a preview of the baseball season. But this is gonna be a different video because, of course, as you can see behind me, I'm a huge Mets fan, and of course, this year, 2016, is the 30th anniversary of the '86 Mets. So I'm gonna discuss the '86 Mets for those of you who weren't born then, and what a huge deal that team was, and what a great team the '86 Mets were, because it was a long time coming for the Mets to have that championship. Of course, I grew up with those teams in the '80s. Uh, I was actually 15 years. I turned 15 years old, right, literally in the middle of the season. During the All Star break. That's when my birthday was. But anyway, believe it or not, folks, I actually predicted the Mets would win the World Series in 3 years earlier, 1983, because I had a sixth grade teacher named who was also a Met fan as well. And every week, that year, the Mets printed out a newspaper or their own newspaper, called Mets Inside Pitch. And when she would finish the third copy, I think she had a subscription to it. Everything when she would finish that week's newspaper, she would give it to me the next week. Instead of throwing it out or recycling it, she gave it to me. And so I read the newspaper from back to front and read who the Mets had in the minor leagues. The Mets had, in the Mets Inside Pitch newspaper, they had stuff, more information about the Mets minor league teams and the prospects and all that stuff. So I knew about Dwight Glenn, I knew about Dallas Strawberry, I knew about Kevin Mitchell, Danny Dexter, Wally Backman, all the guys who were like the key parts to the Mets winning the World Series. So I knew if these guys had a chance to come up to the major leagues and play in the major leagues, this was going to be a great team. And of course, the kids who were giving me crap for being a Mets fan because all the Mets stink, and they actually use the word stink. Nowadays, probably say the Mets suck, but uh, the Mets ended up finishing last place in '83. So even though the Mets already bought out Strawberry, they made the trade for Keith Hernandez during the '83 season. Fans were giving me crap. The Mets would never win. They suck. They're horrible. They always used to make fun of me for wearing Mets shirts all the time. Like some of the comments on my YouTube videos. Some of you were giving me crap for wearing Mets shirts all the time. So I said, I said to me, watch this team. Within 2 to 3 years from now, this is going to be the greatest team that any of us are ever going to see in our lifetimes. The other kids thought I was nuts. They didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I was embarrassing myself. They didn't know anything about the sport of baseball. And well, next year was the magic year of 1984, when the Mets ended up winning 90 games. But unfortunately, they finished second to the Cubs. They were like 6.5 games out. But that was the year that Dwight Glenn came up. It was the year that, as a matter of fact, I just found out recently, you can see Dwight Glenn's major league debut on YouTube. You can see the whole game. He pitched against the Astros. Anyway, I predicted that this kid was going to be a great pitcher because in '83, when he was pitching for Time War, he struck out like 300 batters in the minor leagues. So it was like a huge number. Well, striking out 300 is a huge number in any league, but to do it in the minors for one whole season in one particular league was huge. So I knew if he comes up, it was going to be a huge deal. It was a huge deal. He broke the rookie record, which still stands today. 32 years later, he has the major league record for the most strikeouts in a rookie season, 276 strikeouts, and the whole city was really hyped for this team. And of course, in '85, which I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for, I feel the 1985 Mets were better than the '86 team. And the '86 team won the World Series. because they brought in Gary Carter, the late great Gary Carter. God bless him. And he had 32 home runs, knocked in over 100 runs for the Mets. And to me, I still feel to this day that Gary Carter should have won the MVP in 1985. But unfortunately, they gave it to Willie McGee of the Cardinals. There was a team that barely beat the Mets out. They beat the Mets by 3 games in '85. The Mets won 98 games, but the Cardinals won 101 and knocked the Mets out. So of course, it came down to, of course, the next season in '86, and Davey Johnson, who was the manager then, said in spring training that this team was not only going to win, but they were going to dominate the league. And people thought that he was nuts. It was crazy. That Davey Johnson was really rubbing it into the whole National League because you came close 2 years before, didn't win, and you're talking about a team that hasn't won anything major since 1969 when they won the World Series, the only time they were there. I'm talking about a team that hasn't even played in the World Series in 13 years. They haven't even won at least the division since 1973. So it's been a 13-year drought. And even though the Mets were favored to win the division and probably the World Series in '86, but you gotta do it on the field. And the Mets did it on the field. The Mets ended up winning 108 games. But what a lot of people forget is there was a fortunate incident that happened in spring training that paved the way for Lenny Dykstra to play center field on a regular basis. There was an incident, and of course, I don't know if this video is up on YouTube. I don't think it is. But it was featured in a lot of the playoff preview shows that aired just before the '86 playoffs. There was an incident with Mookie Wilson in spring training when he was practicing a rundown play, and he got hit in the eye with a throw. I don't know who actually made the throw, because that wasn't the camera angle. You didn't see who actually threw the ball, but it hit Mookie in the eye, and he was wearing sunglasses, and the sunglasses, instead of plastic like my glasses, or the made of plastic lenses, plastic frames. His lenses were made out of glass, and as soon as the ball hit the glass, that's when it shattered, and pieces of it ran to his eye. And of course, that paved the way for Lenny Dykstra, who came up in '85. Probably, quarter of the way into the season. And of course, now he's going to start the year on the major league team. Played the whole year. Did a great job, great leadoff guy, and he did a hell of a better job than Mookie Wilson ever did, playing not only playing center field, but as a leadoff hitter. He didn't strike out, couldn't make contact. Mookie Wilson, had a habit of striking out all the time. So of course, in the '86 season, the Mets just rolled over everybody. At one point in the season, the Mets had an 11-game winning streak. And I think it's funny that in the years that the Mets had an 11-game winning streak, they end up at least in the World Series. They did that in '86, not '69. They did it in '86. But they had an 11-game winning streak in 2006, but unfortunately, thanks to Carlos Blanky Beltran, they didn't get to the World Series in 2006. And of course, in 2015, they also had an 11-game winning streak in April. And of course, we all know what happened to the Mets in 2015. Now, getting back to the '86 team, of course, like I said, they rolled over everybody pretty much. And of course, one of the things that for some reason, nobody was ticked off with the Mets in the previous 2 seasons. But when it came to 1986, the rest of the National League were really pissed off at the Mets. I think that for my own reasons, because naturally, of course, if you see my videos on the schooling of the New York Mets, both parts, particularly part 1, most teams were embarrassed at any time, no matter how good the Mets, no matter how good or bad of a team the Mets put out on the field. I always felt that teams were embarrassed by losing to the Mets. That's my own personal opinion as a Mets fan, and as a fan who knows the history of the franchise and how the Mets came into the league. I always felt that other teams were embarrassed by losing to the Mets. And of course, the way teams lost to the Mets in '86, there was games where the Mets just blew other teams out. There were games where the Mets were losing for most of the game, for at least half the game, and all of a sudden, by the sixth inning on, the Mets came from behind and won the game. Sometimes in the bottom of the ninth inning, or sometimes in extra innings, they come from behind and win. And of course, other teams hate that because I think it was like 39 times that year the Mets came from behind and won. Of course, when during the year they actually had 4 on-field fights, which is like I don't know if that's a record or not, but they had a lot of on-field fights. Some of them, at least 2 of them, you can see on YouTube. Um, I think the last 2 you can see, and as one of them was we'll get into an order of the fights. The first one was on May 27th against the Dodgers. Um, George Foster hit, I think it was like 3-1 home run on a grand slam of Dodger pitcher Tom Dienerfeuer, and George Foster, who was still on the team then, which I might get into what happened with him. Um, George Foster hit I think it was a 3-1 home run on a grand slam. The next hit was Ray Knight, and Ray Knight felt that he was going to get hit because George Foster had a habit of very slowly rounding the bases on a home run. So Ray Knight got hit right on his left elbow, and he charged him out, and they had a fight. The next fight was in like early June, I think it was like June 6th, and '86 between the Mets and Pirates, and Rick Rowan, which was the team that first base coach Bill Robertson used to play for. Um, he accused Rick Rowan, who was his former teammate, of scuffing the ball. And of course, when the Pirates left the field, going to their dugout, Rick Rowan had to pass Bill Robertson, because he was the first base coach, as well as the hitting instructor. They got into a fight. And he was saying, "Hey, stop cheating! Hey, Bill, stop cheating!" Rick, stop cheating! Stop scuffing the ball! And they got into a fight. The other fight was, of course, with Ray Knight was involved again with Eric Davis, and this fight is on YouTube. A crazy wild game in Cincinnati. Where Eric Davis had a pop-up slide at third base and was pushing and shoving, and Ray Knight clocked Eric Davis. Of course, the last fight was just before the All-Star break with Darryl Strawberry being hit after a home run hit by Gary Carter. So those were the four fights, and because those 4 fights, and of course every time when Met hit a home run at Shea Stadium, the Met players always used to come out for a curtain call. So because of all that stuff, people said, "Oh, they're the most hated team, they hated, they're cocky." All sports writers outside the New York City area hated the Mets guts, and they wanted the Mets to lose, and lose badly. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. The Mets ended up winning 108 games. They actually went 108 and 54 losses. They broke a record for most wins at home, most wins on the road, and I think maybe in 2015 they broke one of those records of winning games on the road or at home. But no other National League team has won as many games as the '86 Mets did. It's been 30 years, and not one National League team has won 108 games or passed 108 wins since the '86 Mets. And I think the Braves, one of those years, got up to like 105 or 106 wins, which was of course close, but no cigar. They didn't break or pass the Mets' 108 win record. In the American League, of course, they did with the Yankees in '98. They won 114 regular season games. And of course, 3 years later, Seattle actually tied the Major League record for most wins in a season with 116. But in the National League, you only had the Mets at 108, and nobody else since '86. So this is an interesting little fact that no National League team has even tied. I mean, no team that even tied the Mets record of 108 and 54. And of course, at that time, the Mets also had the earliest division clinching, and was broken a couple of years ago by the Nationals in 2014 when they won that on September 16th, which is the earliest clinching on the calendar. I think they won on September 15th or September 16th, which is like a day earlier. And of course, the Mets fans stormed the field. And that was the last time the Mets fans stormed the field like that to rip it up after a clinching of a division or a pennant or a World Series victory. It was the last time it ever happened in New York. And ever since then, they had stormed the field of the New York on the NYPD, stormed the field with officers on horseback, which was determined, which stopped the pretty much stopped the fans from running all over the field. So of course, when the playoffs came, and this is of course a part of my screwing of the Mets video. The Mets were supposed to have had the home field advantage in '86. Fortunately, it didn't happen because of the Houston Oilers football game on the day of Game 4 of the playoffs with the Mets and the Astros. And of course, one of the big controversies, not only was that a controversy which wasn't exploited enough, in my opinion, the other controversy was, of course, Astros pitcher Mike Scott, who was a Cy Young game. He was like 20 and 11, 20 and 12 or something like that. He led the league in strikeouts, 306. I think that the whole major leagues were strikeouts. Won the Cy Young Award going away. But the problem was that he was known and was accused of scuffing the ball. Now, many people believe that the Mets came out with that, but it was actually started by the guy who actually taught him split finger fastball, which was original New York Met, former Brooklyn Dodger, and at that time, the manager of the San Francisco Giants, who was Roger Craig. He taught him the pitch. And Roger Craig was the one who first accused him of scuffing the ball. Because when Roger Craig taught Mike Scott to split finger fastball, his ball was not as moving as it was when the Astros played the Giants in the regular season. Because his ball was not as moving like that when I worked with him during the off season. His pitch, no way was his pitch. His split finger was moving like that, so he had to be doctoring the ball. And the Mets had, especially in the playoffs, and before the playoffs, they had a bunch of baseballs that had a scuff mark on it. And reported to the league and reported to the commissioner, but they didn't do anything about it. They let that go. And of course, Mike Scott in the first game of the playoffs broke a playoff record for striking out 14 Mets in the first game. And the only one that was scored in the first game, I wish this game was on YouTube. Unfortunately, it's not. I mean, I've been trying to look for it. I did a few searches, but it's not on there. The only one that was scored in that game was a home run in the second inning by Glenn Davis, who was the first baseman for the Astros was the only home run hitter. But of course, the Mets came back and won Game 2 in Houston. Game 3, which of all the playoff games in that series, the Astros series, Game 3 is the only one that you can see complete on YouTube. Game 3, of course, is the game where it was like a 6-5 game. That game had the most runs scored of any game in the whole series. In any game, it was like 11 runs combined scored in that game, which is the most of any game in that Astros series. Lenny Dykstra led off. He didn't lead off. He came up with a man on, with Wally Backman on second base in the bottom of the ninth inning. He had a 2-1 home run of Dave Smith. Won the game, and the whole place went crazy. Like I said, you can check out that game. That's definitely one of the better games in the playoffs because the Astros got to a 4-0 lead, and the Mets came back, tied the game on a 3-1 home run by Strawberry, and then Dykstra hit the home run in the ninth. Game 4, uh, Mike Scott came back again in Game 4, and the Mets lost again, but this time they actually scored a run off Scott, 3-1. Because Game 5, they had a rain out one day, pushed the series back one day. And Game 5 was like a 12-inning game. It was a classic pitching duel between Nolan Ryan and Dwight Glenn. Dwight Glenn pitched 10 innings, which is the first time in his young career at that time when he pitched more than 9 innings. And it was won by Gary Cole in the bottom of the 12th inning, with the base hit right up the middle. Of course, then it went to Houston. In Houston, there was a classic 16-inning marathon, and for some stupid reason, I did not tape this game. The reason why is because I had to set the time on my VCR. My mother did not. My mother was home. My father was working days at the time. My mother did not know how to work the VCR, and so I had to set the timer. Of course, the problem with setting a timer on the VCR for a sporting event, and of course, it's different from a TV show or a movie. At least you know if it's a 2-hour movie, you know to set a VCR for 2 hours. Sporting event, you don't know how long a game's going to go. And that game turned out to be until of course it was Johan Santana no hitter. That was like the greatest game in New York Mets history, and of course the greatest game in playoff history, in my opinion. The Mets were losing, gave up 3 wins in the first inning to the Astros, and didn't do anything but bump up to the top of the ninth when they scored 3 wins to tie. Then they scored 1 run in the 14th inning, finally go lead for the first time in the whole game, 4-3. And then Jesse Roscoe gave up a home run to Billy Hatcher that just hit the screen attached to the fair pole, tying the game. 16th and going to the 16th inning. The Mets scored 3 runs. Okay, it's all over. The Mets scored 3 runs. They're going to come back. When the Astros were going to come back, and when they scored 2 runs, they had the time and go-ahead runs on base, or winning runs on base. Jesse Roscoe ends up striking out Kevin Bass on a 3-2 count, and the Mets ended up winning the pennant. And I remember I came home, by the time I came home from school, because at the time the game started, I was just about coming out of school. And by the time I got home, the game was already in I think it was like the bottom of the second inning, bottom of the third inning. I stood there, I sat there, I found my TV set in front for the rest of the game. I didn't even move until when the game was over. I actually had my dinner on the floor in front of my TV set. I mean, I didn't want to move because I was so fascinated with this game. And of course, dream of seeing my team, a team I rooted for, in the World Series. Of course, the Mets became the second team in baseball history to lose the first 2 games at home and ended up winning the World Series. Of course, the team came next was the '96 Yankees, which was 10 years later. Of course, the Mets lost the first 2 games at home. They lost a close game, 1-0. Again, in the first game of the World Series on ironically a fielding error by Tim Tuffle. The ball went right through his legs. Just like the play that will win the World Series for the Mets in Game 6. The Mets got blown out. Well, not really blown out, but they got the rear ends kicked in the second game. The Mets lost 9-3 in the second one. Then on a day off, which was a pretty controversial move at the time, the day on the travel/workout day, which was on a Monday. Remember the days when the first 2 games were on the weekend, folks? On a Saturday and Sunday, not during the week like it is now. They retracted and said, okay, everybody stay in the hotel, get some sleep. So the whole Met team stayed in the hotel. Didn't get any sleep at all. Or they slept in. And even on the day of Game 3, I don't think the Mets even looked out a little bit during Game 3. Because what the irony is that the Mets and the Red Sox played an exhibition game in early September for the Jimmy Fund, which is a big charity thing that the Red Sox do. I don't know if they still do it, but you used to play like the Jimmy Fund game, and ironically, the Red Sox played the Mets in that game. So the Mets were kind of familiar with Fenway Park and how it works, and how the ball bounces off uh, the Green Monster and all the quirks with the outfield, the different angles and stuff. So in Game 3, we had Orlov Boyd starting the game. Lane Dexter came up, hit a home run. Uh, he didn't hit a home run on the first pitch, but like a couple pitches into his at bat, he hit a leadoff home run, and the Mets ended up scoring 3 more runs in an inning, including a botched rundown play, which I think those some of those World Series games you can find on YouTube. Of course, I previously did a review of the whole World Series, DVD, the whole 86 World Series DVD set. Um, and the Mets ended up winning that game. I think it was like 7-1. And they knocked him down all count Boyd in that game, at least in the first inning. And then all count settled down, and they ended up scoring a couple more runs off of him. They won in the game. Of course, Game 4, which of course was the game that the Mets tied up the series with. Gary Cole ended up hitting 2 home runs. And they actually hit another home run, but off the glove of Dwight Evans in right field. Because Dwight Evans went back and they had that low wall by the Red Sox bullpens, or the bullpens in Fenway, and the arm hit the fence, the low fence, and the ball popped out of his glove. Now, which was a habit in that playoffs. I mean, the playoffs went in the World Series as well, because they happened to double Strawberry in the 7th game. Of course, when the Mets ended up winning Game 4, it happened. It was like the third or fourth time in baseball history that the road team won the first 4 games. I think in the '96 World Series with the Yankees and Braves, the road team won the first 5 games. I think it broke that record because the road team won the first 5 games. Anyway, that streak was broken by Game 5 of the World Series when Bruce Hurst shut down the Mets in Game 5 through a complete game actually. And of course, in Game 6, of course, the famous Game 6 when the Buckner era, because there's no way that Bill Buckner shouldn't have been in that game at that point. Because it was the only game when the Red Sox were ahead in the 9th, or in this case, the 10th inning, but it didn't replace Buckner. Because all the other games playing off of World Series games, Buckner was always removed. In the 8th and 9th inning, Buckner was removed. In this case, he was not removed. And that, of course, that move cost the Red Sox Game 6, of course, eventually the World Series. Even though, thankfully, since then, the Red Sox won 3 times, and the Mets have now been in the World Series twice. And unfortunately, they lost the 5 games both those 2 times, which is a shame with the Mets. I guess maybe the Red Sox mojo or something put the hex on the Mets, and they haven't won a World Series in 30 years. Of course, Game 7, of course, I have to talk about Game 7. The Mets were behind 3 games. 3 runs, actually, I should say. And they gave 3 runs in the 2nd inning. And they were doing nothing against Bruce Hurst again. Because of Romano, instead of starting Orlov Boyd, McNamara put on Bruce Hurst. And by the 6th inning, whatever magic Bruce Hurst had against the Mets faded by the 6th inning as the Mets tied the game, won the game on Maitland's home run as he led off the 7th inning. Mets scored 3 runs in the 6th, 3 runs in the 7th, 2 runs in the 8th, and Jesse Orosco closed out the game and the World Series by striking out Marty Barrett. Of course, what a lot of people don't know, everybody remembers the May 9 home run. The way the Mets came from behind in the 6th inning of Game 7. That was Strawberry home run in the 8th inning. But not everybody remembers who knocked in the last one of knowing Game 7 of the World Series, but the last one ever in the World 86 World Series, the 1986 baseball season. That was Jesse Omasco. Because he came up with, I think it was first and second, and he came up instead of Davey Johnson pitching for him because Jesse Omasco was the best relief pitcher the Mets had. Instead of a bunt, the play call for a bunt, and Joe Garagiola, who is a Hall of Fame announcer, was announcing the game for NBC along with another Hall of Fame announcer, Vince Scully. So I almost bet the house he's going to bunt. I said, oh yeah, sure. And of course, the Red Sox had the rotation play. That means the first and third baseman will move in to field the bunt. The shortstop, excuse me, had an inch there. The shortstop will cover third, and the second baseman will cover first base. And of course, they left the middle of the infield open, and J.C. Vasco instead of bunting, he swung, and the ball just went right through the middle, and eventually knocked in the last one of the 1986 World Series. And of course, the next day they had a ticker tape parade, and my feeling was when the Mets won, I felt that my childhood was over. Even though I was 15 years old at the time, like I said earlier, I felt that my childhood was ended. Because of my childhood dream to see the team in uniform my whole life to win the World Series, and they did that. I didn't even go to the parade because they had to take a tape parade the next day. Because I got mad at my science teacher because she gave a test that day. So instead of taking the day off and go to the parade, or at least, at the very least, watch on TV and tape the parade on television, I went to school. I didn't even tape the parade, and I didn't even saw the parade. I saw little clips on the parade on YouTube, but unfortunately nobody had posted the entire parade on YouTube, and I regretted that moment ever since. That I didn't. It was my father taught me on. I didn't know what time the parade started. At 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Maybe I should have taped the game. Taped the parade, I should say, so that way I could see the parade over and over again, and just enjoy what a great moment that was. Because unfortunately, the Mets never won again after that. As a matter of fact, when the Mets won the division, the division, my father shut the tape off. So I didn't. When it got pretty much the game, my father called out a little bit at the beginning of the ninth inning, the eighth and ninth innings. So I messed that up. And then when the fans stormed the field, my father got pretty much most of the or at least most of the clubhouse celebration of it. But when he cut it off was when the fans were being pushed out through the center field gate, or the center field fence in Shea Stadium. You saw what the fans did to the field and how torn up the field was. And Channel 9, WOR TV, Channel 9 here in New York, broadcast the game. And that was the last time the Mets cleared the division that the game was on regular television. Because in 88, 2006, and 2015, those three division clinches were not on regular television, they were on cable. So if you didn't have cable, you couldn't see the last three division clinches. Anyway, when you saw the field torn up for the first time, WOR TV Channel 9 went to a commercial, and that's when my father stopped the tape, and that was it. Then got an interview with Gary Kohler, Davey Johnson, manager Davey Johnson. Keith Hernandez was interviewed by Ralph Kiner. Roger McDowell was also interviewed. I forgot who else was also interviewed. I think Howard Johnson was also interviewed. Third baseman Howard Johnson. All that stuff my father cut out because he stopped the tape. And I asked him, how can you stop the tape for? And he said because he didn't, or his excuse was, he didn't want the tape to run all night. And so, come on. I said, you have the tape and so like out the commercial so we can go a little bit longer. So what? I said, because who knows if the Mets would ever do it again. Sure enough, the Mets never did it again. I mean, like I said earlier, the Mets won divisions and got into the playoffs. Uh, years down the line. But this was my team. Like the quote Bob Murphy, this was my boys of summer, the '86 Mets, and I can't believe I was talking about over 25 minutes now. Um, but when the Mets won the World Series, I felt that my childhood was over. Even though the Mets got into the playoffs again 2 years later, and of course it had to wait like 11 years after that to see him in the playoffs in '99 and 2000 as a wild card team. And in 2000, the Mets got to the World Series, and of course, waiting in 2006, which was I felt that the 2016 was almost as good as the '86 team was. But unfortunately, thanks to Carlos fucking Beltran, the Mets did not get into the World Series in 2006, thanks to him, because he was too busy posing for a picture than swinging the bat. At least when Morty Barrett ended the World Series in 1986, at least the guy swung the bat. If he's gonna strike out, at least swing the goddamn bat, you know. And of course, the Mets got into the World Series 2015. I was very excited. The Mets won, and they expected to win. It was almost like a Cinderella type feeling with the 2015 Mets. Maybe eventually do a video of the 2015 Mets. I don't know, but the Mets came out of nowhere to the uh, win the National League pennant in 2015 because for half the year, or more than half the year, the Mets were shit. I mean, they had the pitching, but they couldn't hit water. They found out of a stinking boat. They couldn't hit water until they got Cespedes, and all of a sudden, like overnight, gelled. And the Mets kept winning. They keep kicking the Nationals' ass. I think like 2 or 3 series in a row. The Mets, I think they won. I think 7 out of the 9 games, or 8 out of 9 for the Nationals to end the year, and they ended up cruising to the division because the Nationals started to fade, and the Mets kept winning and winning, winning like crazy, and blowing out the Nationals. And they ended up getting into the playoffs. They beat the Dodgers, and they beat I think Greinke twice, and they beat Kershaw once in the playoffs. And of course, the funny thing is with the Dodgers, like I said in my playoff preview video, I knew the Mets were going to beat the Cubs 4 straight. I knew. Because of the fact that the Cubs beat the Mets all 7 times, and so I knew the Mets were going. I said, right away to rub it into my sister because she was going for the Cubs because she wanted to see the Cubs win the World Series. I said to her, the Cubs are not going to get to the World Series. For the Cubs to win the World Series, they have to get there, and they haven't gotten there since Truman was president. So there's no way the Cubs going to get to the World Series. And by them being the Mets all 7 games, so watch this. What happens if your team beat a team 7 times in a row? What's going to happen? The other team's going to win 7 in a row. And that's what happened. Well, 4 in a row for the playoffs. And that's what they did. But to me, even though the Mets went to the World Series twice since '86, they went in the playoffs in '88, '99, 2000, 2006, and of course 2015. 5 times after that, no team has come close to the '86 Mets. The 2016 Mets, they had the potential of being that good, but like I said, they have to do it on the field. Well, I know this is a long video; it's almost 40 minutes long now. So I went this long with talking about the '86 Mets. The reason why I'm doing this video is because, like I said in the beginning, this is 2016 is the 30th anniversary of the '86 Mets, and of course, on Memorial Day weekend, they're going to have the whole weekend. They're going to have a celebration or honoring the '86 Mets. If they really want to do it, they should have an all-timers game. Well, no, instead of just introducing the team on the field, which is what they're probably going to do, let's introduce the '86 Mets on the field and against the Dodgers, so it ups the game even more, or the weekend even more. With the Mets playing the Dodgers, they should have an all-timers game, which the Mets haven't had in years. I can't remember the last time the Mets had an all-timers game. But they should have an all-timers game to go along with it. Plus all sorts of promotions, all sorts of stuff to give out to the Mets, to the Met fans, especially those who remember the '86 team, like me. And of course, you could tell behind me, it really went all out with the '86 Mets. Especially, of course, you can see behind me when we head this way. Uh, Behind me there, you see the play that won the World Series for the Mets, the Buckner era. Uh, like I say, still great memories for that team, and the game, and unfortunately, Gary Corder is no longer with us. Uh, he was a real mensch. Gary Corder was the best player on the team, and like I say, he should win the MVP in '85. Uh, and, got still getting emotional getting the Gary Corder no longer here to enjoy this because it was gone all too soon. And so is of course two of the Met coaches, of course, are not going to be there either. And there's Vernon Horschei, who predicted the Mets would win the division on September 17th, and pitching and batting coach, batting slash first base coach for the Mets, Bill Robinson also died, and pitching coach Mel Stottlemyre is not doing too well either because he has cancer. But that's my memories of '86. Once again, this video was not. You're not going to be able to make comments on this video, unfortunately. Of course, you don't know why you're not going to be hashed anymore. The video is too long as it is. So please click on the video, please rate it. Please subscribe to my channel, and please forward this video onto your Facebook pages. You can also check out all my videos not only on my YouTube channel, but also at rallyc.com. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.